ladies and gentlemen, my name is the Diamondback Joey Stylez, and today you are listening to the BWE greatest podcast show known as Beyond the Ropes. Today we have not one, but two, a count of two special guests here with me in my house. One of them is probably the most creative mind, one of the greatest geniuses I've ever met in the backyard wrestling industry. I have Dave Mathews, aka George Serrano, sitting on my left, and to my right, he is my family member. He is my cousin. He's probably the greatest heel going on right now. He is going to take BWE to another direction. He's the face, and he's the current BWE champion, undisputed BWE champion. His name is Jay Cloud. You might know him as Jarvis Figueroa. Yeah, I had to say that name that way. I'm sorry, but that's your birth name. So, like I said, Beyond the Ropes is more personal. It's not like the experience. So we're gonna take this a different route. Today we're just gonna shed light from, like we always gonna do on this show. We're gonna start from, I would say, 6 months prior to BWE 13, and just go on from there. To my listeners out there, as you know, fair warning, you might hear the Long Island Railroad train in the background. Please ignore it to the best of your abilities, because either way, this show is still gonna go on, and we're gonna try to make it the best show as possible. Let's start off with you, Dave. Man, it's been a journey. The last 2 years, it's been flying off the handle. It's just been an incredible ride, incredible journey, and we're not done yet. We still got next year. There's rumors about the Rumble. There's rumors about, well, forget the rumors. There's already a date for BWE 2015. Let's go back. Let's go back to January 2013. I remember getting a message. Well, I wouldn't say it's from you. I would say it's from another participant, Reggie, OMX. He gave me the heads up about BWE 2013. Now, at that time, you were not CEO. You were just a performer. So give me your thoughts about, that time, those 6 months prior to BWE 2013.
Well, I'm actually going to give you and your listeners a little bit of even more of a backstory. Prior to BWE 2013, I actually served in the armed forces. So in 2012, I was actually in Kuwait for the first half of the year. After getting out of Kuwait, I was honorably discharged from the military, came back to New York, and found out there was rumblings that BWE might want to do another event. And you probably had the same reaction. After 10 years, I'm like, you're going to do another event where, who's going to want to do it? I wanted to make sure that everyone was really serious about this. Yeah. So I tried to get with as many people as I could that I knew from back in the day for BWE, and a lot of the same heart was still there. A lot of the same hunger to want to perform was still there. So come January, we had a good, I guess you could say, precipice for the entire show, but we needed the volunteer work. This company has always been about volunteer work. And I knew for some strange reason that BWE was going to need me more in an executive role than in a performance role. And, I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I probably wasn't the best performer in the world. And what I lacked in performance, I usually made up in character and, backstage vignettes.
Right. Now, going back, you just mentioned that you were in the armed forces. And I just want to say thank you so much for, putting yourself into the military. I think it's made you a better person today. I mean, you were always good back then, but it made you a better person today. Now, when you were in the armed forces and you were serving our country or whatnot, did you feel like that there was something, like when you heard about BWE 2013, did you feel that you needed to do this, even if at that time we thought it was a one-time event? Did you feel like you had to get this done, like this was something you needed to get out of your system? Because 10 years, you were in the armed forces. I'm sure you were stressed out. I'm sure there was a lot of things going through your mind. Some people didn't take it very seriously, and they laughed at us about the idea.
That's true.
How did you feel about it making its return? Like, did you need to do this?
It's weird because prior to BWE 2013, again, I was not the CEO of the company, but I've always felt a strong responsibility to the company. I always felt that the company didn't need to open its doors to me 10 years ago, but it did. And it was all free and it was all volunteer work. While I couldn't help the company financially as a 13, 14, 15-year-old, whatever opportunities they allowed me to in the company, I went and I tried to show off as much as possible. So when I started hearing these rumblings, it, like you said again, it was almost an obligation. I almost felt like if there's a show and BWE's putting their name on the marquee, I had to be there in whatever respect it was going to be. There was rumblings in 2010 for BWE to do a reunion show.
Right.
I actually overseas made a trailer for that event.
I remember that.
So the love and the heart was always there. Nothing was going to keep me from this, and that's, to me, that's the absolute statement I want people to go home with. If you love anything, you're just cheating yourself by not at least indulging in it the littlest bit. The people who sit there and laugh at us for indulging in this have not been in the crowds that I've seen, where they people who have stand up and have their beliefs suspended long enough to see people like us, regular Joes,
That's right.
people like us jump off the top ropes or grab a microphone or hold the championship up in the air. I think we've changed the perception of what backyard wrestling is, and I feel like a lot of that is that drive that people are on their own coming up with.
Yeah, that's a great point. Speaking on perception, let's move on to Jay here. Jay, perception, the perception of BWE 2013. Now, your thing was you were a primary, quote unquote, from what I've heard through some of the back talk, you were a primary park performer. You're most notably known for NXW, being the up and coming rising star in NXW as Jay Mysterio. Now, fast forward all that time, and we're at BWE 2013. The card's being planned out. You were given a match. You were given Koro King. Now, that match unfortunately got canceled, and there was particular reasons behind the scenes. What was the, not the outcome, but what led to the cancellation? Like, I know there was some frustrations from what I heard. There was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of tension between you and the management at that time. So what were you going through at BWE 2013 and that lead up, that build up, that it led to cancellation?
The match for BWE 2013 against me and Koro King was for the U.S. title, so the U.S. title was on the line for that match. There was a lot of things going on at the time between BWE and myself. At that very same time, BWE was also trying to lock down their location for 13. Now, at the same time, as they were trying to lock down their location for 13, I saw where they were trying to put down 13 for that day, and it didn't sit well with me. As a matter of fact, I was very uncomfortable with it because of the actual place where it was gonna supposedly taking part in. But I expressed my opinion, being the fact that I also thought that others weren't expressing their opinion as well on the place, and it turns out some people were, but I was unaware of that. So I spoke my mind about that subject, about not performing in that place because of what more bad could happen more than good. Because at the same time, let's say if we were gonna perform there, it would have been trespassing nonetheless. You know what I'm saying? So I expressed my opinion, and some people up in higher management or the CEO at the time try to make it seem as an excuse that I was using to get out of performing at 13. And anybody that knows me and knows me for a while knows that not only BWE, but this whole yarding aspect, wrestling in the yard in general, this is me. This is what I love to do. I wake up in the morning and this is what I think about. I go to sleep at night and this is what I think about. Like, every single time that I breathe I think about this. Like, this is me. This is a part of me, regardless of 20 years from now. If I'm not doing it, then I'm always going to be thinking about it. And that's the thing that people don't didn't see at the time, thinking I was trying to use it as an excuse. I mean, were you gonna get me out of jail if, let's say, I got arrested at the time? You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I thought people felt the same way, and I spoke up about it. It's just people didn't like that I was voicing my opinion and everybody else's opinion that sided with me. So it was just that, man. And for people to say that, and it really hurt my feelings. So I kind of I stuck by my guns and made the decision, like, all right, you want to make it seem like that was an excuse to get out of 14, and I'm not like that. If I'm going to tell you something that I'm going to do, I'm going to go out and do it. If I'm not going to do it, then I'm going to tell you I'm not going to do it, and this is why I'm not going to do it. So I pulled out of 14 because of the 13, and because of the location, and that didn't sit well. So like I said, I feel like I'm going around in circles already, that it was being used as an excuse, but it wasn't.
Well, going back, it's funny you mentioned that, because I completely forgot about that aspect. I forgot that, the original idea of having BWE 2013 was supposed to be in, I think, a lot
instead of having it done in BWE HQ at the time.
Right, and the lot was, I think it made it uncomfortable for a lot of us, because a lot of us were exactly, we were scared, because we thought, if we get caught in this lot, we would probably get locked up. Mm-hmm. We would need to obtain permits.
Lockups, summonses for everybody. Right. The whole nine, man.
Yeah, that was the nervous part. Like, I agree with you all on that, because it was a scary situation. I thought, I was thinking to myself, like, the lot? Like, we're all going to get locked up. We're just asking for, and especially now, with no disrespect to the New York City Police Department, nowadays it's very difficult to pull off a show. Because I remember, if you remember, we were in IS 302. We were supposed to have a match back in 2010. We were there for how long? Probably like 30 minutes, and the cops came and they shut everything down.
We got shut down during the first match, and me and you were the main event for that day.
Yep. Like back in 2003, 2004, they gave us some kind of leeway. They gave us, they actually sat there, they were cheering with their little walkie-talkies.
Betting money.
Yeah, betting money
next to each other. Like we got away with a lot of stuff back in the day.
Yeah, but now it's just completely changed. How did you feel, George? I should say Dave Mathews. How did you feel about the whole, the lot? Because I know the lot was an uncomfortable place, like, to wrestle. And then, ultimately it became known that we weren't going to do the lot. We were going to do the yard in,
HQ.
In HQ at the BWE headquarters. What was your thoughts about the lot? Like, how did you feel about that?
It's funny being in the position that I'm in now, because even back then, although I wasn't in an actual position, I was still treated with high regard, because I usually like to think of things in the big picture. I don't think of things for myself, so people come to me with opinions if they want to see a bigger picture. The lot is a tricky situation. I know it obviously affects people in different ways. We were scratching and clawing for a location for BWE 2013,
Right.
and while there was a lot of people who had, were definitely just not going to do the yard, or the lot, because of the reasons why you gave. The same people who weren't going to give or weren't going to perform in the lot were also the same people who didn't give us an alternative.
Right.
So while it's almost like if you're planning a party and you tell people, well, I'm going to do it at this club, and everyone says, well, we don't want to do it at that club, and you go, well, then where do you want to do it at? I don't know, let's just do it somewhere else. And then you pick another club, and it's, oh, well, I don't know if I can make, you understand?
Yeah.
So it becomes a situation like that. So
it's a back and forth indecisive thing.
I can tell you that that at the top, the hands were tied.
Right.
Because BWE has always been a place for dreamers. I say that because we are good at taking what we have and making it better. Our goal for 13 was to be the biggest thing in the world. And as far as capacity, the lot was that place.
Yeah.
As far as seeding people to see our product, getting eyes on the product, the lot was the place. Now, what people don't know is prior to the actual event, we had sent letters to the person who owns the lot, the surrounding locations. We sent letters to the former BWE headquarters in Brooklyn, trying to secure that place. This is the side you don't hear about, but that's why you have this great radio show. Radio show.
Gotta say it.
Because while there are people who are quick to turn down ideas, it is the top that has no choice but to generate idea after idea after idea to again get shut down by the roster.
Yeah.
So it was I remember the lot being a big deal. In my eyes, had we had the permission, it could have quite possibly been one of the greatest shows we ever had, as far as the space and the dynamic.
Definitely.
Without that permission, though, we're a bunch of people showing up, throwing each other around, and that was the dangerous aspect of it. Another part of J Cloud not showing up to 13 that was a little ripple was we all found out at the same time he wasn't showing up at 13.
On talking shit.
Because he was on the radio for another company saying he wasn't going to show up to my company's show.
Now, what company is this? What company were you currently employed at the time?
That was NXW at the time.
Okay.
NXW, and I had just finished my HOW run.
So you were doing dual. You were doing like a
Yes,
dual promotion.
I was going back and forth from Brooklyn and the Bronx and other places in Brooklyn where NXW was taking place at the time as well.
Okay. Now, fast forward. We forget the lot. We end up doing it. We ended up getting management. You know, I think a lot of us voiced our opinions about the lot. Okay. Let's fast forward to BWE 2013. Let's talk about, you know, the outcome, how everything came about. You know, because it was a pretty good showing for us coming back after 10 years.
No advertisements. We had nothing. Word of mouth. It was word of mouth. And that alone is the strength of this company. The fact that people trust our word enough to come just to check it out. There is no way the combined audiences for 13, 14 Raw were 100% wrestling people. There is no way. Not a way in the world. They came to be entertained, though.
Yeah.
And although they may not have left as wrestling fans, they left as BWE fans because we entertained them.
Yeah.
13 was an even bigger suspense of disbelief because we had to show people that we can entertain them without a ring.
Yeah. That's the next thing I want to go into because that was a big part of it. See, Jay, I know you wanted to be there. You wanted to get in that.
I did,
But
man.
lo and behold, there was a lot of controversy behind it because a lot of people, to me, were criticizing it. People were like, what are you kidding? They're like, first off, what was one of the lines they said? Oh, that you made a makeshift ring to get back into it. You can't invest into a ring. We'll move on, you know, to that next step because, you know, the following year, which is this year, everybody starts change. But, you know, I guess it was 8x8 or something like that.
Oh, even smaller.
It was probably smaller than that. Now, there was a lot of controversy. I mean, we tried our best after 10 years to put an investment into what we can create. You know, the set was up, the ring was up, you know, the creation was there. But at the time, there was a lot of friction with management. A lot of ideas were being spun around, and there was a lot of, you know, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. There was back and forth. Let's go to your match. Let's talk about your match at BWE 13, and I'll get back to Jay about, you know, the cancellation back because we need to elaborate a little bit more on it. But I want to talk about your match with OMX at BWE 2013 because some of the promos in that match, you know, that's the start of what, you know, the creation of promos, utilizing YouTube, utilizing Facebook, because that's the thing. Nowadays we have social media. 10 years ago we didn't have any of that.
No, none.
We didn't have iPods, we didn't have iPhones, Samsung Galaxies.
We had big Nextels though. We had a bunch of big
Oh
Nextels.
yeah, we had a bunch of i710s
And
some
MySpace,
30s.
and MySpace,
and MySpace, yeah, top 20s and all that.
There you go.
But your match with OMX was 3 Stages of Hell. It was a great performance on your part.
Thank you.
I mean, you always say that you're not technically gifted, but I think you are. But what you're more gifted at as well is the brains behind the operation. Tell me your thoughts on, you know, the promos, how that whole build up, you know, what did that mean to you? Because 3 Stages of Hell, it's a pain in the ass to like plan out because that's 3 falls you gotta go. Well, the third fall is if necessary, but I want you to let the listeners know, like, how does it feel to get involved in a match like that? Because it was a lot of physicality. How did you feel behind Gorilla?
I mean, I can tell you now that it goes down as one of my most favorite matches because of early on, me and OMX decided we were going to work together for this match. We were going to work together for this match, and we were going to have a great match. At the time, and I love the guy, OMX was not a marquee player. He was a guy who would show up and he would do what he can do. He was great in the ring, but he didn't have that fire on the ring. And I wouldn't take any match at this point. I'm always for the company, and I knew what me and OMX could work well, and we were gonna get there. When I started my promos, another thing that people don't know about me, when I started my promos, I had just been affected by Hurricane Sandy. They had taken this hurricane, this monstrous hurricane, took away my house, my car, all my belongings, my military documentation, birth certificates, family albums, everything. So when you talk about having enough fuel for promos, at the time OMX was being called ungrateful. He was called an ungrateful superstar because he was thought to be ungrateful for the things he was given, which was an easy foil for my character, who had everything taken away from him. Literally, by Mother Nature, had everything stripped away. So it was very easy for me to tap into that resentment of people who have more than you, or people who think that they're better than you. It was easy for me to tap into that. But you're right. All of those promos were shot by myself, which is unheard of because the way things work, there's a pecking order in this company, and you need to have approval. And it's quality assurance. They're just trying to make sure that everything across the board is perfect. But I was shooting these things on my own. I was self-preservation. I felt no one was going to think about me, care about me, or promote me, which is not true. But this guerrilla mindset is what helped me promote myself. Yeah. So out on my own, did the promos, sitting back in Guerrilla knowing there's going to be chairs and there's going to be drop kicks and there's going to be all kinds of stuff. And knowing my goal for 13 was to create a character so despicable that by the time the bell rang in my match to start, people were waiting to see me be set on fire. Right. that was the point. I wanted to be that guy that people literally came to see get beat up.
You pretty much bring the gasoline, and the fans brought the fire, and they wanted to just burn it down.
And every couple months, adding more gasoline and adding more gasoline, to the point that people just are sick of the smell, and they want to see me get tossed to the side. Another thing is, shortly, we had this match. It was a great match, exceeded all my expectations. Took a couple chair shots to the head. Did what I had to do. Came out with bumps and bruises. As I'm walking backstage, back into Guerrilla, I'm getting my handshakes and everything. Everyone's telling me what a great match I have. Lo and behold, who's one of the first people who comes up and says hi to me and thanks me for my match? Jay Cloud.
Okay.
Jay Cloud's one of those first people right there, and some of the cameras actually caught that interaction. It's magical. Yeah. Because what a lot of people don't know is, myself, I was the one who approached Jay Cloud about signing to BWE.
Right.
I'm the one who approached Jay Cloud about BWE 13. I'm the one who approached Jay Cloud about this United States Championship match and trying to make him a key marquee player in this company to create these storylines. So by the end of 13, it was the weirdest feeling. We were happy. The company was happy to complete such a great event, but a lot of us were itching for something more. Right. And behind my shoulder was a competitor who I knew was good, who couldn't participate at 13, and if we were going to do 14, I had my eyes to make him somebody worthwhile that year.
Right. And going on to Jay Cloud. Jay, now, I remember clearly, you showed up to BWE 2013. You were there, you were in attendance, but there was some sort of disappointment, I would say. It was a look of disappointment because you wanted to be a part of the show, and you wanted to get involved, but like I said, there was disappointment. Now, you had a commitment early in the day. I believe you were with HOW?
No, I had a non-title match with Anarchy.
Okay.
Up there in the Bronx at VCW at the time.
Okay.
And at the same day, BWE 2013 was going on. So I'm like, and I know some of the guys in the locker room prior to, Dave talking to me about 13 and my title match for the U.S. title and stuff like that. So once I finished my match with Anarchy up there in the Bronx, I shot a phone call over to BWE, and I'm like, yo, is the show going on? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, how many matches are we in? Are you guys into? And he's like, we're about 1 or 2. We have a segment going on now. I'm like,
who did you contact?
Oh, it was actually OMX at the time, Reggie. And I told him, I'm like, dude, no matter what, I know it's a big show and everything, and I don't mean to sound selfish and all that, dude, but yo, whatever's going on, just stall just a little bit, because I wanted to be down there, man. I wanted to be down there. If I wasn't gonna be performing there, then I was damn sure gonna be there to support them. And that was my mindset in the morning. It wasn't even, well, my mindset was to get this match done with Anarchy, and as soon as I was done, jet straight into Brooklyn to go catch 13, so that way I could go see the guys throw down. And man, let me tell you, the minute I stepped into that little walkway to go to the back to go see the show go down, the energy just hit me. And no sooner than I got into front of the house or started walking through that little hallway in the side of the house, and I just got overwhelmed. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, I was at a loss for words. Like, as you can tell, I'm at a loss for words now, because it was a hit for them, and not only was it a hit for them, it was a hit for everybody on the card. And like, it was basically them rubbing it in my face, like, yo. And at the end of the show, I was like, damn. Not even at the end of the show, during the show, I'm watching everything go down, and I'm like, oh man.
Did you say? I feel like there was some sort of regret for not being. Did you regret not being on BWE 2013? Do you regret not being on the card, or like how do you feel about it?
If I said I don't, then I'd be a liar,
Right.
Because it was a great show, but at the same time, all I wanted to do was to perform in front of everybody without the headache and stuff like that. But it was just, at the time when everything was just going on, I was just like, you know what, whatever. Yeah. And then, but when I got there, it was just like, you know what, it wasn't a whatever. I should have kept along with all the bull crap. But at the same time, I'm glad I stuck to my guns, because it's the thing that I've always been proud of myself, is to stick by whatever I say and whatever I do. So I do kind of regret it, but at the same time I don't.
Yeah.
So then there's that. And then at the end of the show, I waited for everybody to get their piece in with each other, because I know they were gonna want to talk to each other and stuff about their show and stuff before I even went to even give everybody thanks and praise and stuff, because it was a great show. I loved it, man. I was there, and I was buying whatever was on the stand, whatever was being sold, I was buying. Two specials, whatever, man. I bought into it all. I bought into it all, man.
Not to interrupt, but nothing needs to get said before we move past BWE 2013. I was informed the day of 13. Now, mind you, again, I never thought that my match was going to be the one that people came to see, but it was my goal to put everything I had in it, so that eventually, when the finished product would come out, people could judge at the end of the day.
Right.
So, although I wasn't I ended up being a marquee match, I stuck my guns to that match and to my opponent, and sometimes OMX was lackadaisical, and sometimes he was motivated. He came 13 motivated, but rumor has it he almost didn't come at all, and that's because I was told that OMX was given an opportunity to win the NXW Intercontinental Championship on June 30th, 2013. The same day he was having his match with me. Had he chosen the gold, which he could have, I'd have no match at 13. None of that would ever happen. These things were going on behind the scenes while we're looking for a location, while we're looking for talent. The competitiveness from this yarding was coming to another level that we were not ready for, right, where people were now picking sides and feelings were going to get hurt. And the success of 13 was the beginning of a lot of that. But even before 13 was a success, we had people trying to take the wheels off the car while we were still driving. Right. And I think that's very important to get said, because there's a lot of people who will sit there and put their arms around the BWE as if they were friends from the beginning, and that's not the truth. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of people that wanted to see this little flimsy, no rope having, company get put on their ass. And the fact that, again, we can suspend belief that these guys wrestling in this little square is a wrestling match, we made people believe that, and they walked out with that belief. And I also believe, as long as we knew the basis or the basics and can do the basics in that little box, the day that we were granted a ring, we were gonna tear it up.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna take a short break. Damn, we're going really in depth in this. I mean, we just got like the first.
I'm loving this right now.
We got the first half done of this, this remarkable show that we have right now. This is BWE Beyond the Ropes. You're sitting with Joe Serrano, Jarvis Figueroa, Joey Negrin. If you want to know our characters, Jay Cloud, Joey Stylez, Dave Mathews. We'll be right back after this short break. This commercial break is brought to you part by Beats by Dre. Hear what you want. We'll be right back.
What do you guys, did you fight a lot as a kid?
Not everybody in Compton's gang, man.
Richard, have you gone downhill since college?
No.
Because you're an athlete, do you feel you're untouchable?
I'm not afraid of anything.
What do you think about your reputation as a thug?
I don't have that reputation.
Richard, do you think you are above the law?
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is BWE Beyond the Ropes. I am Joey Stylez. I'm here with Jay Cloud and Dave Mathews, and we are here to go more out there. Let's talk about a pivotal point in backyard wrestling history. 2 days right after BWE 2013, after a huge high, huge success, you get a phone call. You got a phone call. Well, let's just say the guys at the NXW brand, they wanted to hire you as the general manager.
Right.
It was short-lived.
Very short.
It was short.
It was short.
It was a short-lived situation.
Yeah.
You were brought in. I remember they brought you in, and then a week later, I see on social media that you've been taken out.
And publicly released. Not only was I released, but I was publicly released. A first.
Radio.
Yes, a first for Dave Mathews.
Right.
I mean, I've gotten nothing but, astonishing reviews everywhere I've ever been. And yeah, you're right. I was released in about a week.
Now, how did you feel about? Well, first off, let's start with you being hired as as NXW's general manager. Now, this isn't the same NXW as circa 2002, 2004-ish.
No.
It's not like it was a little different then. It was a little different now.
You can say it was a revamp.
Right. It was a revamp. It was I guess a resurgence,
Right.
if you will. It was kind of a resurgence. I don't know if it had to do with BWE coming back, that, NXW felt like they needed to get back into the groove of things. But let's start with you being GM. How did you get the call? What was said to you? What thoughts did you have? Were you excited about getting the position? Did you feel like it would be, you'd have to be headstrong because, the guys are a little bit grittier in the park? Let's take me back to when you got hired.
No problem. So, as I alluded to earlier, OMX had an opportunity for the NXW Intercontinental Championship. BWE had posted a list of top 10 superstars in 2013, a list that OMX was omitted from. And because he was omitted from that list, he ended up becoming his own radio show host.
Right.
And he would go out and he would air some dirty laundry for BWE. He would get a lot of views or
Right.
listens or whatever you want to call it. I want to say that there were some people who didn't like the BWE, who liked the fact that he was putting our skeletons out of our closets. And so he got a lot of recognition for being a guy who just said how he felt. Eventually, NXW decided they wanted their own radio show as well, and ended up becoming the NXW Lounge. And instead of coming up with their own host, they hired OMX. So OMX, a BWE superstar, my BWE opponent for 13, is doing their dirty work, hosting their shows. OMX was actually the person who reached out to me and said that he had been speaking to the owner of the NXW about bringing me in executive position. I was told I was going to be the on-screen general manager, something where I wouldn't hold any real power, but because of my history in BWE on the suit and tie, something I could portray on screen very well. And sometimes a company needs an on-screen, somebody to hate on screen, because everyone wants to be a wrestler. Everyone wants to be Hogan. Everyone wants to be Austin. Not many people want to be Vince. And sometimes you need Vince.
Right.
So I was actually very, very excited to be the NXW general manager because I had made a lot of friends in the NXW locker room. There was a lot of people who I actually really, really respected. And I know the BWE. I know the management in BWE. And sometimes they need to be tested. Sometimes they need to have a competition so that they can soar to higher heights, because if they're looking to the left and looking to the right and no one's running alongside them, why run any faster? There's no reason. So I felt I could potentially be the catalyst of a resurgence for the NXW and create even better storylines for the BWE just by playing the devil's advocate and being an owner or someone who had a hearsay in another company.
Now, are you talking at a character Dave Mathews standpoint that you felt like you could be the devil's advocate, or are you talking about more on a personal note?
Oh, personally, wholeheartedly personally, I thought that BWE needed a kick in the ass. If we were really going to be sticking around, because it's one thing to say you're going to throw a show, it's another thing to actually do it. If we were going to stick around, we needed to be the best. At the time, there was a lot of people that were overseen, or there was a lot of people that were picked over myself or other people who I felt were, committed to the company. I was never shy in my opinions, but they weren't always met. So what I chose to do was I chose to take care of myself. It was a lot of self-preservation. If I had an idea, it was for myself. If I had a good song, it was for me. If I wanted to make a video, it was going to be for me, because if no one was going to do it, I was going to do it myself. Until I started realizing that I had the potential of helping other people. Next thing you know, I get this knock on the door for NXW. I'm like, I'm going to take this brand to new heights that BWE is going to have to run 3 times as fast to catch up to us, if they can at that point, because I knew that I can get the roster that we needed. That's something that needs to be said also. Right. Although there was a resurgence of NXW to the point that they were going to create a WrestleManiacs 10, a WMX event, a resurgence for them like we did 13. There were no power players, man. The power players, the Christians, the Jeremys, the Eric Batistas, the Joey Stylez, they were not there, and a lot of them were making home in the BWE turf. So I thought, if I'm in the NXW, the BWE guys know me. I can bring them back to NXW.
So you felt like a bridge. You
Exactly.
felt like you can give the confidence to the guys so they can just go back to where,
They knew me, they trusted me, they knew my judgment.
Right.
And if they knew that I was on top and I was the one signing the checks and crossing the T's and dotting the I's, that we could potentially start this again. I was always excited with NXW. Although BWE was always my home, NXW was always innovative. They were always out there in the ring doing moves I've never even seen before, doing moves you couldn't pay me to do. And to think that I could be at the helm, almost a Paul Heyman, who is one of my greatest idols, to know that I could be at the helm of a group of people and just add a little bit of Kool-Aid to motivate them, to make them better, and make overall the yarding situation in New York better. That was, I was head over heels. I couldn't wait to be the GM of NXW.
Okay, let's go. I want to get Jay Cloud's input on this situation. Now, he's general manager of NXW. All right. Now, from what I remember, you were an integral part of the main event at WMX due to qualifying.
Yes.
You were supposed to go one-on-one with Anarchy. That was at WMX in the Bronx, I believe.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there was a lot of tension build up to that match that never happened. How I even got a phone call multiple times of frustration between, you and him not coming to terms, not being able to, come up with, the overage, like who's coming out over, who's, or whatnot. Now, I'm not here bashing anybody. I'm just saying, I'm stating facts here. What was it like to, you came from NXW. That was your home.
Right.
What was it like to be in the resurgence phase of NXW and that trying to get into the main event? Now, you already tried BWE. You missed out on that.
Right.
Then you have this going on. What's going on? What happened?
I mean, to be honest with you, it was great. I was having a blast because I was one of the first guys to know. Because I got approached for. I'd like to believe that I was one of the first people that was approached on the idea of Dave Mathews coming to NXW and being the GM. Once I heard that, I was, what? I was like, oh man, I can't wait. Like when, where, and I didn't even care why, because this was the guy that fought for me for 13, and the show that was supposed to be before 13 a couple years ago, and I was ecstatic. I was very excited. Like, Dave Mathews is gonna be the GM. I'm here. He fought for me. I couldn't wait because it was gonna be magic was gonna happen anyway, regardless of whichever way you want to cut it, slice it. You know what I'm saying? Things were gonna happen. You didn't know what was gonna happen, but things were gonna happen, and I felt that the moment, boom, he stepped in, because he was an unfamiliar face. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was also in his own right. He was in unfamiliar territory, so to speak, but he also had a little of an idea of the guys that were a part of NXW at the time during the revamp.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, but I was excited. Like I've had many phone calls with the guys at NXW at the time, like, yo, where's this gonna go? What are we gonna do? Yo, I got ideas.
So you were confident that this was gonna take off?
Hell yeah, I was confident. Oh my God, I was, if not the most confident, because I was the one, and I believe the only one that expressed interest in BWE back in the day, when the guys at the time, like around in the early 2000s, that were going to BWE to go perform and stuff like that. And I seen them going over to go wrestle and stuff over there at BWE, come back and mention them, and I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And then a couple of weeks later, some of their guys come to our show and stuff like that, and I'm just like, wow. So that really took me by surprise when he came over to BGM. So as you can tell, he's gonna be excited regardless. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I was just ready just to see what was gonna happen.
What went wrong? Like what was because what blew the fish out of the water was
if I had to say, was the new GM getting behind the number one contender at the time, which was me, for the NXW World Title. Now, me being a small guy at the time, or a small guy now.
You weigh a lot more with that belt.
At the time, he got behind me, and we started getting people frustrated. Like, we were getting, it got so bad to a certain point that when we were on radio, people were calling in and thinking that I was the NXW champion. I wasn't the NXW champion. Anarchy was the NXW champion at the time. So it depends how bad you want to. It is bad for some people and it's good for other people. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But for me, I was having a blast. What I couldn't say I wasn't, because look at all the confusion and the mess that me and him caused at the time.
Now back to you, Dave. When you were backing him, 100%, for, I guess, a chance at the World Championship for NXW, was there a conflict? Was there favoritism? What was the reason? Because the match never happened.
What was my reason for backing Cloud, or what was my reason?
What I mean, you were backing Cloud, you were GM, but like I said, there was a conflict.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it was conflict of interest.
Let me take this one.
Go ahead, brother.
The conflict, whether regardless anybody wants to address it or not, and I'm going to, because I don't give a damn what everybody thinks, was the BWE guy coming over to NXW and being an authority figure and having him back one of the top guys in NXW, and at the same time the champion at the time having a hard time trying to grasp that and trying to use it as motivation, as, oh, you're trying to back him, but I'm the champion. You know what I mean? And putting himself forward and trying to make everybody forget about me and the number one contender. So that really left a bad taste in everybody's mouth, as to him coming over to NXW and being the authority figure And as soon as he gets here, what's the first thing he does? Bang! He starts backing up the #1 contender.
I mean, that's exactly what I did. And the crazy thing about it is, up until that point, believe it or not, look through the books, no one had done that. In a backyard wrestling environment, everyone backs themselves. No one backs someone else. Maybe there's a tag team out there, and maybe there was some sort of manager, superstar tandem in the NXW, the BWE, the VCW. But as far as I was concerned, no one was in the position on top, just constantly gloating over one superstar. Because by nature, we are selfish. We are egotistical. We don't give credit to others. And the more credit I gave the character J. Cloud, the more people hated Dave Mathews. And we caught it the first day. Me and him did a 2-hour radio show. No commercials on the NXW Lounge. People calling in from all over New York to curse us out, to boo us, to call me a kiss ass, to call him a jerk. And all we did was get cuter and cuter and cuter with it, and say we were gonna go on vacation together, and we were gonna go spend the champion's money, and we were gonna go do this, that, and the third. And there was we got legit heat for that. But me, being me, I thought that was my job. I thought my job.
He was doing his job. He was doing his job. And to the T, may I add, that it was so serious that what happened? A week, or not even a week, a couple days later, I made a mistake, and what happened? They gave you the boot?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, there was starting to be some rumblings that people were getting behind this Cloud movement. No pun intended. Where people were getting behind. Maybe they weren't fan favorites, but it was entertaining them. Yeah. The fact that there was this guy, and he's power hungry, he just got here, he picked his #1 guy, and he's going to go for him, and that's going to be the guy to carry the company to a new era, and the old guard has the championship, and he doesn't want to go anywhere. And that was really entertaining people. That was really getting people sucked in. And then when push came to shove, we started to think, what if J. Cloud was the man?
Yeah.
Would that be crazy? Would that be completely out of this world to think, out of 100%, that 20%, maybe if, kind of, sort of, one day J. Cloud becomes a man? Now, Jay, excuse me, but at the time, that was answered back to me, or that was met with extreme hostility. Yeah. The fact that there was even a percentage of us considering him going over in that main event was met with nothing but, like I said, hostility, and it ended up being hard to work with.
Did you feel, both of you, this question is for both of you, do you feel like there was some sort of selfishness with the outcome of the match, that it had to cause? Okay, the best analogy for it was, let's say Thor came to Earth. He took Mjolnir with him. He took his hammer. He smashed it on the ground and created an earthquake with it. Yeah. That's I would take Mjolnir and compare it to selfishness. Do you feel that there was a lot of selfishness you felt with Anarchy being champion and not having to drop the title to J. Cloud? Do you feel that was a selfish move, that the main event never happened?
In my opinion, I won't call it selfishness, because I won't call it selfishness because I think a lot of ignorance led to it. Okay. I want to use the analogy that the people use, where they say, you can't see the forest through the trees. I think that the champion was too close to the product to see the eventual landscape that we were building was going to be so much bigger than WMX. We were laying the groundwork for that. I think he was so close to the product that he couldn't see past tomorrow. He couldn't see past WMX.
It's about the now.
Right. And if now he wasn't on top, then there was no now. Okay. And so I don't want to point fingers and call people selfish, but I do want to say if it was short-sightedness. They weren't looking at the big picture. And anyone who thinks that I'm wrong about that, look at BWE 2014. Right. Consider this a groundbreaking statement, but a lot of the groundwork that was supposed to be laid for WMX was laid for BWE 2014. A lot of the me backing Cloud and people hating me and people hating Cloud and how dare he come and show up and how dare he. These were all storylines. These were all angles that were gift wrapped.
All golden eggs for the NXW. Whichever way you wanted to cut it, whichever way you wanted to slice it, win or lose, it was golden.
Silver platter. Right there. And again, I thought I was doing my job by doing this. Next thing you know, I was told that both sides couldn't come to terms, and I was released.
Do you feel the release became because of the friction between J Cloud and Anarchy? Do you feel like there was, because of the backing? I wouldn't say 100%.
Right.
I would say 150% backing to J Cloud, that you were released because you wouldn't do what in their case was best.
I didn't play nice is what it was. And a big thing that hit me and hurt me, because over this time I started to know and respect J Cloud.
Right.
Was there was rumblings, and not like someone outright said it, but I swear to you that there were rumblings that J Cloud wouldn't have questioned the ending, or J Cloud wouldn't have known his worth, that I had gotten into his head. People were starting to think that I'm the one who was making J Cloud insubordinate, when in reality all I was doing was saying, you deserve a lot more than what the hell you're given, and we can get this a lot farther than people are trying to make it. Next thing you know, I became the devil's advocate. I became the guy who was feeding J Cloud a bunch of nonsense, when in reality he was doing nothing but getting better.
Yeah.
He was getting better. We were getting better. The angle was getting better. And I think we overshadowed the original story they wanted to tell. And it was getting to the point, in my opinion, that J Cloud couldn't have lost that match. Because we were the hottest thing going in the company. And had he lost that match, it would have been a constant reminder that no matter how far you try to get in this business, whoever's on top will be the person at the end to say what they had to say and will always have the last word. And I think that's how NXW is going to end up being encapsulated after all this is said and done.
So, at the end of the day, I would say frustration had a lot to do with the crumblings, because WMX never happened.
Did it?
True.
I mean, me and him were going to go see the Four Fathers match.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We were going to be there anyway. You know what I'm
We
saying?
were there for that, man. We were going to have Cokes and popcorns.
Why would you put me in that predicament?
Yeah, it gets announced that J Cloud's out the match. It gets announced that I'm no longer GM. It gets announced that they're gonna try to get everybody back and screw them. We don't need J Cloud. We don't need Dave Mathews. We're gonna go on and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna surge through.
Yeah.
And at the time, I should have felt bad, but I had people backing me who just barely knew me or kind of sort of knew me.
I was part of that
And
too.
and J Cloud was the one.
Yeah.
J Cloud. People had started a petition, an online petition,
To get his job
to
back
hire
for
me back.
NXW.
Yes, to hire me back for general manager, something that completely caught me off guard and made me think, you know what, if these guys are batting for me, I have to bat for them even if I'm not in a position to bat for them. Yeah. And I mean, history, you know, after that, you know, I grabbed a couple followers, a couple people who believed in me, who I believed in, and we decided we were going to turn this industry on its ear.
Yeah, it's remarkable because, you know, I was given a phone call. I was given a phone call to participate in WMX, and it's funny because I went back and forth with Boom, and me and Boom felt kind of odd. We were kind of contemplating on doing it because it meant a lot to us, because me and Boom came together. Mm-hmm. We did NEW originally before it was known as NXW. Me and Boom, you know, we came in this together. If there's any guy that's going to give me my last match, it's possibly him, because we did this together.
Right.
Me and Boom did this together, and we just felt uncomfortable with the situation because we know what was going on. We knew the situation between the J Cloud Anarchy match. It wasn't coming to fruition, and then I get a call, and I'm like, well, guess what? And this was like at 11:30 at night. My fiance was probably pissed because the phone's going off. He's like, listen, we're going to do a Four Fathers match. It's going to be you, Christopher Chambers, Boom, and myself, in reference to Anarchy. And I'm like, okay. And at this point in my life, it's like, not that I don't want to wrestle in a park. It's
You can't afford to.
I can't afford to.
That's true.
Because I'm at a different stage in life.
Yeah.
And it's not because I have what Chambers tells me joking around, a gummy bear back. It's not because of, you know, I lack confidence in myself.
If something goes wrong, then
If
possibly other things could go downhill for you.
If something happens, my neck is pretty much in bad shape as it is. If I do something risky, they will not follow me to the hospital and pay my bill. And at the time, I was uninsured. I had just gotten laid off.
Yeah.
Because I was doing something, you know, I don't want to disclose that, but you know, I had just gotten laid off because I was only a temporary person. Anarchy, I felt, was, how can I say, not pushy. He was a little. I'm trying to find the word. He was
Abrasive?
desperate.
Well, I mean, even the creation of the match. Even in the creation of the match, you have to sit there and think. The fact that he came up with those names that had not been in the company forever, names that have probably not even wrestled in a decade. The fact that he decided that this was going to be what replaced Jay Cloud and Anarchy. And, you know, Jay, I also thought it was pretty cool that they figured they needed 4 people to replace a two-man match, because I mean, it was twin tower ladders. It was going to be 2 men. Yeah, we're going to kill it. We were going to do this the right way. It had to be desperation for Boom and all that, you know, to call in Boom, to call in Chambers, to call in Joey. And you had to know that BWE's eyes were on the NXW product the entire time. The owner of BWE was literally sitting there watching this all fall down because, I mean, although they're not competition as far as money or anything that, their talent, the drive, the production values, these are all things we look at in other companies because we always want to get better. And if NXW was going to be the new next hot brand, we would need to know how to get new and hot.
Right.
And that's exactly what they were supposed to be. And how do you become the next new hot brand when you're calling people out of retirement for your championship match? Doesn't make any sense. To me, if it was going to be a next new hot brand, they need the next new hot star. And I was telling the world that was Jay Cloud.
Now, speaking of hot new star, let's talk about that. Because this was probably the most antagonistical storyline. I don't even know if that's a word. The most... I think it was the most creative.
Listen, you knew it was going to be something, not to toot the horn, but you knew it was going to be something good if me and him were in NXW, making everybody go crazy, turning their head upside down. You knew we were onto something once you saw that happening, and they got rid of him within a week or 2 of him being with us. You know what I mean?
Now, we go fast forward summer 2013. Possibly the genesis of what BWE Armada, hell, the world knows of now is the Mafia.
Yeah.
It's probably the hottest stable going on right now. It's, you know, filled with antagonists, guys who know how to play as heel. It's guys based. I think the common goal for the Mafia, in my opinion, was frustration. Because a lot of the guys that are in the Mafia, the guys are that always got held back. There were guys that never got the opportunity.
Right.
That was the genesis of the Mafia. It started back in I don't even want to say it. I'm going to leave that to you, Dave. I'm going to let you and I'm going to let Jay describe that, because I tried to get a background check on it last week, and I was like, you know what? Let's just save it. Let's save it for the show.
And now everyone hears at the same time.
So now that the 2 key players are here, I remember I was wowed because I remember there was a search for Anarchy. And his whereabouts were unknown. Describe to me what the hell happened, how did the Mafia come about, and how did each of the 7 members get inaugurated to possibly one of the most greatest antagonistical stables ever. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I'll touch on the 7 members real quick. The 7 members of the Mafia at the time were, while WMX, the show for WrestleManiacs X for NXW was going on, everybody inside that Mafia of the 7 of us were guys that were willing to come out of the woodwork one more time for NXW. And once the rug was pulled from underneath them, that was it. They just chose to go ballistic along with me, because when the rug was pulled from underneath me as well, they saw that. Because at the same time, it kind of looks like we all got the rug pulled from underneath each other. You know what I'm saying? So they saw that, and they kind of just, it was kind of all right, we're standing in a circle and this just happened, and we're looking at each other, and we all have the same mutual feeling and response towards this whole thing. So at the time, it wasn't really, it was 7 of us without it being 7 of us, without us coming out and saying there were 7 of us, because people knew who the Mafia, what the Mafia was. It's just they didn't know who or what they were. You know what I'm saying? So when that happened, it was kind of a three-man thing that was going on, and the other guys that were unofficial at the time. So when this happened, it was just me, Dave Mathews, and Jason Cage at the time. And then once the bickering and stuff started happening, I started getting phone calls like, yo, what's going on? Because nobody was calling me to ask about my piece. Everybody was asking Anarchy, or Anarchy was calling other people, and nobody was calling me for it.
Now going back to that, do you feel that, you know, they didn't go to you for that because of the fact they feel the history with Anarchy was, you know, people have described to me that he's been very difficult to work with over the years.
Once I gave people my side of the story, it kind of gave people clarity.
And it made sense.
So I don't want to say people sided with me. I'm going to say they agreed with me, more or less, because they know how Anarchy is and how he was back in the day, and it's more or less the same now. So that kind of led to people actually believing in what was going on, and on agreeing on what I was saying and stuff like that. So there you have it. And then you have guys like Jason Cage coming in and lighting his own fire back up, and siding with coming to me and Dave Mathews' side, and the Mafia name just came over, literally, I say overnight. And then the response from everybody that was involved going against us was just, their response was just, it seemed so organic. Like it was organic, as a matter of fact. So people started seeing that, and they were like, whoa, like they really have something here. And then once the other unofficial guys started seeing that, and mind you, I already had made phone calls already to people like, yo, you want to be down, yes or no? And people would, no. And then people started calling in, and I may have gotten a couple of phone calls like, yo, just sit down, think about it, just watch from the side, see what's going on, and if you still want to be down, let's make it happen.
Now, the original Mafia members were 7, correct?
3.
It was the original was 3. Okay, the original 3 were yourself, Dave, you, Jay,
Me and Jason Cage.
Yeah.
Jason Cage was the third man. Take me back to that day when you guys stalked out Anarchy.
Well, I can't. I'm not gonna take it there yet. One more stop, real quick.
Go ahead.
It's very important for people to know that J. Cloud was very instrumental in getting Jason Cage on board.
Yeah, because I remember Jason Cage was pretty
He was
much
done. He was done.
Yeah, he was
done.
Listen, Jason Cage is my best friend, be all end all.
Right.
And he was finished, done. Like at the same time as I'm going through the motions with Dave at the time, and everything, whether it be 13, WMX at the time, and I'd always tell him, because I'm always around him, like, yo, this is who I'm fighting this week. Yo, I just had a good match with this guy, and bro, I really wish you'd come back. I know you still got it with you. You know what I'm saying? Trying to light something in him, or at least to see if he has at least any interest in anything. And
We
ended up showing up at his residence, because at that same day, me and George, aka Dave Mathews, were supposed to do a shoot. Right. We were supposed to shoot something that day, and throughout an hour or two of brainstorming, of heavy brainstorming, we kind of ditched that, and I came up with the idea like, yo, Jason Cage lives 4 blocks away from where we're trying to shoot, and four blocks away from where I live. So let's go give him a knock on the door. So we explained everything to him that was going on, and he got excited. So
was he upset?
I couldn't say he wasn't, but he was
on behalf of Jay. I think Jason Cage at heart is someone who won't complain, but doesn't mean that man hasn't gone through stuff. And I think he was very underutilized by NXW, and I think he's one of those ones that will jump off a cliff for the company, and when he cracks his head, not complain about it. And as somebody who took chair shot after chair shot, or bad bump, or bad dump, got dumped on his head, I felt a lot of the reason why he just stopped wrestling was because he was tired of getting beat up. Yeah. He was tired of people taking advantage, and he was tired of getting beat up. Cloud came to me and he's like, I think we can get him. I think we can get Cage. I'm like, I don't know. No one was able to get him.
Yeah,
we had tried to get him for 13. We could not
nobody.
get him. And
Even,
so,
even for the revamp of NXW. I'm
yeah,
like, oh,
no one could get him.
bro, I'm like, yo, dude, we're coming back with this new thing, a revamp. I want to see if you're down. No, I'm not interested. I'm like, all right. And then things got real thick and heavy. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And it basically got him excited. And it, to me, I think all he just needed was a good enough reason. You know what I mean? And that kind of gave him the good enough reason. And then after he was given that reason, I think he got really excited, and then he just wanted it in. He just wanted to keep it up.
Well, we're going to take another short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the other members of the Mafia. How did they get in? What was the main reason? What was their drive? And boom, cut a promo with the Mafia. But, you know, it was based out on a particular area. But we'll get into that after this short break.